This is live. This is live and you're live. Okay. Alhamdulillah. طيب. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everyone. Apologies for the delay. We were hoping to use Zoom and we were trying to log on to Zoom, but what has happened is that there's some difficulties with it. I was just trying to use my phone and I could not gain access. So anyway, inshallah, I'm trying our best. So we're going on Facebook here, Instagram up there, and YouTube here. So I apologize if the angles, the lighting, whatever, is not perfect. But inshallah, trying our best, inshallah. So I hope that all of you have gained access. At least I've seen that we have viewers on YouTube, alhamdulillah. There are some on Facebook and some on Instagram. Anyway, alhamdulillah, we started. And again, apologies for the delay, inshallah. Hopefully, as we get better at it, inshallah, we'll be able to run much more smoothly, inshallah. So the Sister Murni is not going to be with us today because we haven't been able to use or access Zoom. So I will be reading the questions myself, inshallah. And then I'll answer, of course. And then if you have questions, follow-ups, whatever, inshallah, just write them down. Hopefully, right, on one of the three screens, I'll be able to catch them and I'll answer them, inshallah. If I miss that, if I miss any of them, inshallah, don't worry about it. We'll answer them, inshallah, in the next session, bismillah. Or, you know, if a more urgent answer is needed, a recording or a inshallah a post inshallah will suffice bi'idhnillah azza wa jalla. Okay, so we are doing hadith number 11 and 12. I only have questions for hadith number 12, so I'm assuming inshallah either hadith 11 was very clear. This is my hope, that it was so clear that nobody had any questions, or that nobody read it. I don't know what it is. So inshallah, but if you have questions about it, do actually post them. But for now, we're going to deal first with the questions that have already been submitted about hadith number 12. And if any of the questioners, inshallah, you hear your hadith, but you need a follow-up, you need to clarify something, let me know, inshallah. Just send me that clarification or follow-up. So first question, we have 10 questions, inshallah. So the first question is, Assalamu alaikum. They say, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you share a simple analogy to explain the clear difference between shuh, hawa, nafs, and soul? So that sister is asking the difference between shuh, hawa, and then nafs and soul. So we say, inshallah, first of all, right, let's explain the difference between nafs and ruh. Because the sister wrote there, nafs and soul. Soul is English, right? So soul, I'm assuming she's translating ruh. So the difference between nafs and ruh first, and then we'll try to explain the difference between shuh and hawa. So nafs and ruh, we can translate both as soul. Now, the scholars, when they speak about nafs and ruh, some say they are synonymous. Both of them mean soul. Okay? Except that they're interchangeable. Sometimes you can say ruhul mu'min, the soul of the believer, or nafsul mu'min, the soul of the believer, this or that. Others differentiate between nafs and ruh by saying that ruh is more the soul on its own. So the soul before entry into the body, or the soul after it exits the body, is ruh. Whereas nafs is the soul mixed with the body, so together. Okay? So as long as that ruh is connected to the body, and for that it has desires, it has impulses, it's attracted, is tempted, right? It's nafs, right? Ruh is when it exits. Wallahu a'lam. But a lot of times they're used interchangeably. You can say nafs and ruh, or ruh and nafs. So that's the difference between them. So not much difference, or if there is a difference, it depends on connection to the body. Now, shuh and hawa. Hawa is desire, general desire. Most of the time in the Quran, it's used negatively. right? Now, when you see hawa, when you see the Quran consistently, it's negative. Even though the word itself, hawa, means what you desire. So it could be something positive. And there are some examples in the Sunnah where it is used positively, or at least for what you desire. It's not negative. Okay? So that's what hawa. Hawa is, what do you like? So you can say, I love a woman. I like ice cream. This is all hawa. Or I like sin. This is all hawa. But it mostly in the Quran, you'd see it. And in the words of the scholar, because they followed what Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, usually hawa is negative, right? Now, one attribute of the self that desires is shuh. So shuh is greed. Shuh is greed, or extreme greed. So the soul, let's say the nafs or the ruh in the body, has desire, has hawa, and part of that hawa, which is its attraction to the world, part of that hawa is extreme greed. So that's the difference between them. Okay? So the nafs and the ruh, they have a lot of qualities in them. One of them is hawa, and one of that is shuh. So that's the difference between them. So I hope that is clear, inshallah, right? So you don't necessarily need an analogy to understand them, but that is the difference between them, inshallah. If it's still confusing, let me know, inshallah. Question number 2 says, what is the difference between shuh, greed, and envy? And if we have both, that is, we are stingy and envy in our heart, does that mean that we have shuh? So 2 parts to that question. What's the difference between shuh, greed, and envy? So when we want to see the difference between them, right, we want to use either all Arabic or all English, because envy and greed are English. Shuh is Arabic. So we can say easily that, well, greed is shuh and shuh is greed. But here, the question really is, what is the difference between shuh and envy? Okay, hasad, shuh and hasad, shuh and jealousy. Now, shuh is the general disease, let's say, the bigger disease. Envy or jealousy or hasad, right, comes out of shuh. Comes out of shuh. So what is shuh again? If you've read it, inshallah, in chapter 12, hadith 12, what is shuh? Try to recall. It's extreme greed. It's that eagerness to have, okay? And not let go of what you have. You want more of this dunya. It stems from the poverty of the self. Poverty of the self meaning what? Poverty of the self, that it feels this need and tries to capture or hold on to anything and not let go of it. That's shuh. Because we are not self-sufficient. We're not rich. We are poor by creation. All creation is by nature poor, meaning dependent on Allah Azza wa Jal. But we have that quality in us, which is shuh. Now, because of it, because I have greed, right, I'll look at what other people have and envy them. Be jealous of it. Why is it that they have this or not? So because of greed, I envy. If there is no greed, there would be no envy. If I don't have shuh, I'm not going to envy. I'm not going to have hasad. So why do I have hasad? I have hasad because I want what they have. Or I don't want them to have it. That's what hasad is, right? I don't want them to have any of that. What is that? That's hasad, envy. Or I want something similar to it. Why is it that they have it and I don't? That is what? That is also envy. Where does it come from? Greed. That's shuh. So that's the difference between them, right? Shuh is greed, intense form, and it produces envy and jealousy. That's the difference. Now, she's asking if we are stingy and we are envious, that in our heart we're stingy, we hold on, we don't want to give. Right? So here, if we have feelings of envy, jealousy in our heart, but we do not reveal it to the person, are we envious? Okay, inshallah. So here, if we are stingy and we are envious, right? Yes. Does that mean that we have shuh? Yes, because as a default creation, right? Default, all of us have shuh. Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَأُحْضِرَتْ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحْ. That ayah is there in the chapter. وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحْ, meaning that when the nafs is there, when your soul is there, right? When you're discussing business, discussing family affairs, whatever, with you all the time, by nature there is shuh. You always want to take more than give. You don't want to give anything, but you want to take everything. So there's always present with you, what? Always present with you, shuh. So if we are envious and we are stingy, does that mean that we have shuh? Yeah, of course. That these are signs, these are products of shuh. So of course, whenever you find that you are greedy, that's going to produce what? You're going to hate what people have, and you want to wish for it, or you want to wish that they don't have it anymore. That's what it is. So of course, so everybody else, and that's the assumption, inshallah, should be, everybody else should be aware that we all have it, and we should strive to rid ourselves of it. So it says, if we have this in our hearts, is it still a sin? In other words, if we keep it to ourselves only. Okay, that's a good question. Say I'm envious and jealous of someone, right? And if it's just inside my heart and I don't reveal it, I don't do anything with it, is that a sin? We say if nothing bad comes out of it, it's not a sin. Because that thing that feeling sometimes assaults you, attacks you, without you even knowing. Okay, you're just sitting there, you're browsing, you see that somebody graduated or got married or got a child. You don't have any of that. Or you're going through some difficult times. You find them happy, immediately become jealous. That's not something that you can push. It's an attack, just like sickness. Now, what do you do with it? If you don't do anything haram because of it, if you don't say anything haram because of it, and if you have that feeling and you don't wish them harm inside, but you're fighting, you're struggling with that jealousy, then you're okay, inshallah. As long as what? You're not happy with it and you're not wishing them harm. But if you, let's say, you're jealous and you start doing things to undermine them or take away their blessings, that's haram, of course. If you say things to undermine them, right? That's haram. Or if in your heart you don't say anything, but you start hating them and wishing them harm and feeling delighted when something bad happens to them, that is a sin. But if you have these feelings and you're struggling and you're fighting and you're struggling and you're fighting, it's just like having a cold and you're fighting and you're taking medicine and sometimes it beats you and sometimes you beat it. If that's the case, it's like a war between you and your diseases, then you're okay. Because why? Because you're doing your best. And as long as you're doing your best, you're safe, inshallah, from sin and from harm, inshallah. But if you surrender to it and you say, yes, even though you haven't said anything, but yes, I wish them harm, I'm unhappy that when they are in trouble, then that would be a sin, inshallah. Okay. Hope that was clear, inshallah. So here, question number 3, he says on page 140, what is the remedy for item number 3? Item number 3, it says when you, and that's sort of examples, I think if I remember right, those are examples of shuh. That is when you view somebody who has a blessing from Allah Azza wa Jalla, and even though that them having this doesn't harm you, but you just wish that it goes away, that they would lose it. So the question here would, what is the remedy for number 3? The remedy for it, of course, is to treat shuh. And the treatment of shuh, inshallah, is in the chapter and in the following chapters, inshallah. So I'm not going to expand on it, except just to say, inshallah, for the remedy of shuh. If a person has greed is what? Based on what? Love of dunya. So that's what you're dealing with. So if you don't care about the dunya, you won't have any desire for it, then you're not going to run after it. Okay? Then you're not going to be greedy. So it's love of this dunya. So how do you switch so that you don't have greed for this world, but rather desire for the hereafter? You have to do what? You have to increase your connection, or bring yourself closer to Allah and further away from the pleasures of this world. Restrain your gaze, restrain your involvement and indulgement in the pleasures of this world, so that it's not as attractive. You don't have to deprive yourself of the halal. You can eat, you can drink, you can buy new things, but you restrain yourself so that you're not indulging every whim, every fantasy of yours. I want to eat, I want to drink, I want to travel here. You're trying to restrain yourself and redirect your energy towards what Allah Azza wa Jal loves. And then, of course, greed is what asks you to hold back, so you start giving, which is the opposite of greed. Greed is what? Generosity. You see it, inshallah, in the remaining chapters. So you treat something, a disease, with the opposite. Treat a disease with the opposite. So when you have a fever, and one of the remedies is, how do you bring down a fever? You put cold compressions on your forehead. You try to cool yourself down. What are you doing? You're doing the opposite, right? Doing the opposite. So if you're envious, envy is what? Envy is what? Wishing that somebody would lose a ni'mah, right? So what is the opposite of that? You make dua for them. There's one remedy. One remedy, right? Is that if I'm envious of someone, and envy is I wish that they would lose this blessing from Allah Azza wa Jal, if I make dua for them and keep making dua for them, that's the opposite. That's that treatment. And with greed, right? Greed is what? Greed is like, I want more. What's the opposite? Generosity. Give more. Start giving sadaqah, start giving more of your time, start helping people, right? So give to combat greed. So and then other remedies, inshallah, increase your love for Allah, attachment to Him, your ibadah, and all of that, inshallah. With viewing social media, that's still question number 3, looking at other people's abundant wealth, would that increase our illness? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and it depends on our illness, but yes, it does. So if you're looking at what people have just had, what they've just won, where they just traveled, that they've just bought a home, you're looking at all of these things and you keep looking at them, your heart is where? With that, with the dunya. And the more your heart is with the dunya, the more that it is going to be attracted to it, sorry for its loss, wishing that it has the same as other people. If you're looking at the hereafter, by necessity, you're not looking much at the dunya. So this is it. If you keep looking at the lives of the rich and famous, okay, and you'll just like to watch that and keep watching that, your mind is filled with this, your heart is filled with that, that's the only thing you want. That's the only thing you want. So of course you're going to be angry whenever you see somebody having what you do not have, because your attachment is not to the akhirah, to the next life, it's to this life. You're angry because of it, you're happy because of it, you're sad because of it, not because of the hereafter. But if your intention is to reach Allah and not to be distracted by, the trivial of this world, it doesn't matter then to you who has and who doesn't have, who just won and who just bought. It doesn't matter. These are just distractions. They are. So this is how. So if I, and all of us are, if I and you, right, are going to be affected by, browsing and looking at social media, then I'd have to decrease my intake, not look as much, or be very, very selective in who am I following and what am I stopping to look at, and what am I letting into my heart and into my mind. So you need to treat yourself by fasting, just exactly like that. If I'm someone whose food, if I intake of food is making them sick, what do? I take less of it. So if I'm going on social media is making me depressed and angry and unsatisfied, and then I take less of it. Maybe none of it. Maybe I fast completely until I'm well. Or I unfollow a lot of people and just follow those who will make me feel better and appreciative of what Allah had given me and more focused on the hereafter. Now, number 4, it says here, page 141 in the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, defining shuh, in that tradition of Ibn Mas'ud, when he defined shuh, a man comes to him and has a spiritual complaint. He says, "Oh, yeah, Ibn Mas'ud, I perished. I'm guilty of shuh." Right? So she's saying that, is it recommended to be more open about speaking about our spiritual diseases so that we can seek a cure to them? Of course. That's one of the points that could come out of that tradition. Somebody comes to Ibn Mas'ud and says, I'm dead, I'm done for. Why? He says, because I have that disease of shuh in me. Then Ibn Mas'ud talks to him about it. She's saying, asking, should we be more open about our illnesses? Yes. So if you have a physical illness, what do? You don't, I mean, for most of us, right? What do? We go to the doctor immediately and we tell them we have these symptoms. What should I do? How do I fix it? How do I treat myself? Why? Because we're worried about it. So if we have a spiritual or a religious illness, I notice that I'm envious. I notice that I'm struggling with a particular sin. I notice that I'm very frustrated religiously, right? Because of dua, because of worship, whatever it is. Well, I need somebody to assist me with that. If I don't have the answer, I need an assistant. Who's going to assist you? You have to go to someone who is knowledgeable and tell them. It doesn't mean that you have to reveal all your secrets and all your sins. No. It says, I suffer from envy. How do I treat it? I suffer from, I admire my work. I have arrogance. How do I treat that? Etc. etc. So of course, right? Be of course selective. Who you're going to go to, who you're going to ask. But of course, yes, just like with physical illness, try also with religious illnesses or diseases of the heart to seek someone's counsel and make sure, inshallah, that they are the right person so that they would give you the right answer and work on it, inshallah. Question number 5, inshallah. How can we remain patient while we're waiting for the other person's heart to soften towards us when attempting to fulfill their rights without demanding ours? So the question here is saying that what? It says, if I'm going to give, so let's say if I'm in a relationship, spouses, children, parents, friends. So if I'm in this relationship and I'm not demanding all of my rights and I'm giving them all of their rights. So I'm not demanding all of mine, but I'm giving them all of theirs. And I'm waiting for them to come around to be better, for their heart to soften, etc., etc. So how can we remain patient while this is happening? So an example of, for instance, spouses, husband and wife. So there's a problem with one of them. The other person is trying to fix the marriage, fix the relationship. So they're trying to be patient. They're trying to be supportive. They're trying to give them all the legal rights that belong to them, whether it's spending on them or cooking for them or taking care of the children or whatever, even though the other spouse is not giving everything back. Okay? So how can we remain patient while this is happening? Whenever you need patience, okay, where do you go? You always have a reservoir, like a non-ending reservoir, a tank, like a big tank of patience. You always have that, but you need to access it. Now, how do you access patience? Patience is what? Is a gift from Allah Azza wa Jal. Patience, like taqwa, like any religious gift and like any worldly gift. So if you need something worldly, where do you go? You try, of course, but first, where do you go? You ask Allah Azza wa Jal. So first, then you need to ask Allah for it. And you ask Allah for it in 2 ways. Ask Allah for it by dua. Ask, Ya Allah, give me more patience, give me more patience. Ask Allah for it by increased worship, because the more that you worship Allah, the more that Allah will give you patience. Because then what? What happens is that when you worship Allah Azza wa Jal, the dunya, this world, will shrink in your eyes and the hereafter will be greater. Right? So the more that you worship, you get closer to Allah. You get closer to the hereafter. The hereafter, it gets magnified in your eyes and in your heart. It becomes big, attractive. That's the thing that you want to work for. That's the thing that you want to focus on. And the dunya starts shrinking. That helps you be patient. This thing helps you to be patient. And of course, the ibadah itself, various types of ibadah. Salat teaches patience. Fasting teaches patience. Zakat teaches patience. So all of these ibadah, when you practice them, you actually are practicing patience. And hoping that when you're looking at your spouse or child or parent, the other side of that relationship, who are not doing what they are supposed to do, say to yourself, I'm doing this. I'm giving them, what is theirs. I'm not getting all that is mine, but I'm giving them all that is theirs for Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah will compensate me for the things that I'm not getting. That is what's going to allow you to be patient. And when you put your head on your pillow before you go to bed, and you know that I didn't get all that I deserved today or last week, you either could sleep sad or sleep comfortable that Allah will give me and compensate me. If that's the case, you'll be able, inshallah, to be patient the next day and the day after and the day after, inshallah. So this is how, inshallah. Allahu a'lam. Number 6, when do we know that we have valid reasons to demand all our rights in a marriage and we're not following our shuh? So when do we know that in a marriage, specifically it's asking about that, when do we know that in a marriage we have the right to demand our rights and it's not an issue of shuh? I'll say 2 things first of all. 1, demand as much as you are giving. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah Azza wa Jal, and they have as much as is upon them bil-ma'ruf. That is, Allah Azza wa Jal had given both spouses, women and men. They will get as much as they have to do. It's a balance. Allah Azza wa Jal revealed that balance. So if you're going to demand, I want you to give me this and this and this, make sure that you're putting into this marriage similar, right, equal to what you're asking for. So don't be someone who is asking but not giving. That's shuh. That is shuh, right? That is greed. Okay, greed, where I just want and I'm not going to give. I want to be forgiven, but I'm not going to forgive. I want to be excused, but I'm not going to excuse. So if that's the case, then you can demand. It's not shuh because it's your right. Okay? But if you're not giving, if we are deficient and we have our shortcomings, I can't demand more than what is equitably mine, depending on what I give. That's one. The second thing is that you'll know that it is your right when Allah Azza wa Jal had said that it is your right. If you demand more than your rights, then that is, of course, greed. You've transgressed. Right? Then you've transgressed. So first, don't demand more than what Allah had allotted for you. Asking for more is greed. So don't ask for more. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, let's say for instance, your share in the inheritance is this. You say, I don't want more. You say, okay, your husband owes you this. You say, I want more. Your wife owes you this, so I want more. Or you say to your spouse, you have to do this and this and this for me, but I don't have to do anything. That's all what? Greed. That's sure. But if you say, okay, I'm putting this into the marriage, okay, and I want this back, and this thing that I want back, Allah Azza wa Jalla has guaranteed for me, then we can't say that this is shuh. You basically are demanding your right. But make sure, inshallah, also now we're not talking just simply and only about what is your right and what is his right and what is her right all the time. Sometimes you need to compromise and overlook some of what they owe you in order, inshallah, for the marriage to continue. Where do you stop? What is appropriate and what is not? That is up to you. That is, no one can come from the outside. Someone can give you advice based on specific circumstances, but no one can come to you and have this general rule where you say, you all be patient with this, because not everybody can. With the general guidelines are halal and haram. As long as it's halal, you can demand. If it's haram, you cannot demand it. And also, demand as much as you're willing to give. So just think about it, inshallah. The issue is not just simply about what I want to take, but sometimes it's also giving, because when you give, inshallah, the other person is transformed in the process. Right? Hopefully, bi'idhnillah, transformed in the process, so that they also start giving willingly, rather than you having to kind of snatch it from their hand and say, this is mine, just give it. Right? You want them to give it willingly and lovingly, inshallah. Allah. So it says that page, this is hadith number question number 7, page 145. Hypocrites have shuh in their hearts. How can we notice that we have shuh in our heart? Symptoms, right? Symptoms. Greed. How do you know if you have greed in your heart? Symptoms, right? So if you're envious, if you're jealous, if you don't want to give money, if you don't want to donate money and give it for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, even zakah, you don't want to give away zakah. You feel sad whenever someone has something good in their life, and the vice versa, right? Happy when a misfortune hits them. So you don't want to donate, you don't want to give money, you don't want to even give advice, you don't want to give your time to people, you don't want to help them. These are all signs of shuh, right? And if you read in the Quran, you see, because reference hypocrites, see how the hypocrites were, because Allah Azza wa Jal says, ashihatan ala al-khayr. They're greedy with khair, with goodness. They don't want any of it to come to the believers. They want to keep it all themselves. So when you look at the qualities of the hypocrites and how they behaved, when you consider how stingy they were with their money, with their assistance, with their advice, these are all signs. How envious they were, how empty they were on the inside. So whenever you notice that here, when it comes especially to money and favors, your feeling towards your other Muslim brothers and sisters, that all tells you, inshallah, if there is shuh or not. And, I don't think that at this point we should be wondering whether we have shuh. The assumption is we have it, not we don't have it. Don't assume that, oh, I'm not envious. The assumption is I am. Okay? And then we treat it. The assumption is we have it, and then we treat it. The assumption is there is some arrogance, and then we treat it. Not that am I or do I have it. Assumption is especially shuh and envy. Right? Okay. Now, number 8, is it recommended to deny ourselves things that are permissible as a way of taming or controlling our shuh? Yes. Is it permissible or is it recommended that you deny yourself some of the permissible, right? So that you tame your greed? Yes. That's one of the ways of treating it. You say, well, where's the line? You say, that is up to you to find out. We know that you could go to an extreme, and don't go to an extreme. And for you and your family, especially if it's somebody else. You're a father or a mother, right? Husband or a wife. And you have that, and you say, okay, I want to control my greed. So you start denying yourself, but you also start denying your wife, your spouse, your husband, or your children. You have to be careful about this, because they may not be ready for what you are ready for. So you have to think about it, right? You can start small, you can start simple, gentle, right? But beware, for instance, you're not enforcing or forcing on them what they're not ready to take. Just think about it. If somebody's trying to force that on you, oh, you got to stop eating meat, okay? Just like they've decided you can't eat meat anymore because we want to live a simpler life. And you're a person who loves meat, who needs meat in their life, okay? So the path for each person could be slightly different. But how do you start? You start by thinking about overspending, okay? Things that you don't need. Not necessities, but things that you don't need. Where if, let's say, you're buying a bag or shoes, or talking about men and women, right? Bag or shoes or glasses or whatever, right? And you could buy something for $100. That'd be perfectly fine, suitable, will do the job. But you go on and buy something for 1,000, and then you'd have to ask yourself, why this and not that? Why not I restrain and tame, as the sister said, tame my desire by saying this is enough for me. What is humble, what is simple is enough for me. So that I don't, I don't indulge in luxury. Because if I buy something very expensive, and by the way, I'm not saying that buying expensive things is haram. And maybe let's say for one sister, she can do this, with bags and shoes. Another sister cannot, right? Cannot. But she can do it with something else. So where there's no one answer, okay? There is no one answer. Yani Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu with one of the Sahaba, he saw him once had bought meat. So he told him, what did you buy? He said, I bought meat. He says, so whenever you feel like it, you go ahead and buy. So he was telling him, right? Even though buying meat is halal, but he was telling, especially Umar radiallahu anhu, especially with the senior Sahaba, he wanted them to be kind of like superior in their iman and detachment from the dunya. That's why he was hard on them. Right? He wouldn't speak like that to a nomad who wouldn't be able even to understand what this is happening. Why should I not eat meat? The food of the Arabs is meat. You can't tell him to stop eating. But for this Sahabi, he expected and he wanted more from him. So it depends on where you're at, what you can tolerate, what you can give up. You can start small. So why do you start small? Simply because that experience tells you, okay, I feel like this, but I'm not going to. That's it. I'm not going to. And notice, inshallah, how you react to it. And you don't want it to turn into a disaster where if you start feeling deprived and depressed because of it. That's never the intention. The intention is you can give it up, you're still fine. You're still fine. It's just as training. And with that, inshallah, you can add something else, until it'd be like someone like Hasan al-Basri, someone like Sufyan al-Thawri, not up to that level, but a level where you could say no to a lot of this dunya, and that keeps you safe from it. It keeps you safe. I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want that. Because it keeps you safe from it. Even though, like Sufyan al-Thawri, a while back we talked about Sufyan al-Thawri, way back. Sufyan al-Thawri, he would like to dress well and eat well. So it doesn't mean that there is one pattern that fits everybody. Ahmad ibn Hanbal did not. Okay, other pious scholars and worshippers of Allah did not, but others did. So the pattern, there's no one pattern. It's just deny yourself a little bit so that you can, inshallah, control your desire, control your greed, and know that you have the upper hand, not your nafs. And inshallah, you can at least start by wasting money. Find out that if there's something that kind of takes all of your money or wastes all of your money, start with that, inshallah. Start with that. Okay. طيب, inshallah. Question number 9, can we judge people following our instinct? Like they're just based on seeing them. Can we judge them based on that? Based on like just their face value on their appearance? If they show signs that they are following their greed. She says there are times that we cannot find out. She says clarify. We cannot really find out the truth about this, and we feel that we have to save ourselves soon. So basically the question is that let's say if I meet someone and based on the first few interactions with them, I feel that they're greedy. There's something wrong with them. They're greedy. They're not good for me. It says, can I, based on that assumption that I have, sort of distance myself from them? Because I don't really have time to verify whether they are this or that. And if I try to, it may be just too long. And that could hurt me. So can I do this? So you say, okay, one, you could be cautious. You're allowed to be cautious. You're not allowed to judge people without evidence. So there's a difference between being cautious and being what? Judgmental, or being definitive in your judgment. So if I just meet someone and there are some signs. Now those signs could be very strong signs, and those signs could be very weak. I don't know. You could be very intuitive, and you could have strong iman, and Allah could just open up your eyes so you could see things that a lot of other people can, or maybe you just it may be whispers of the shaitan. So that's why it's difficult to decide generally, just for me to give an answer just based on what you think that your assumption is right or wrong. Allahu a'lam. I do not know. For some people it's right, for some people it's wrong. But suppose that this is what the assumption or the inclination that you have in your mind, that I think that they're not right, there's something wrong with them. Am I allowed to be cautious? Yes. You're allowed to be cautious. So if I think that they're not good for me, I shouldn't be around them. Keep your distance. And don't stop saying salam to them. Salam alaikum wa alaikum salam, as long as they are Muslim, right? You don't have any reason to stop saying salam. But if I'm being cautious, I'm not going to invite them to my house, right? It's as simple as that. If I'm being cautious, I'm not sharing my secrets with them, right? If I'm being cautious, I'm not gonna be so close that we become, very close friends. I'm not gonna do this. I'll keep my distance. So that, inshallah. So it's not judging people; it's just being cautious. So it's just like, let's say, for instance, you're walking, down the street and you see somebody and their appearance gives you the possibility maybe that they're violent, and without being racist, huh? Just maybe they're violent, maybe the way that they're dressed, the way they're talking, maybe, okay, they're violent. So if you just hold on firmly, to your wallet, right? Yeah, just being cautious, not necessarily. You could be wrong. You could be, this is your assumption. Maybe you're just projecting. Maybe it's just all in our head. And a lot of times it's all in our head. But if you just want to be like extra careful, especially if you're female, is someone going to come and blame you? Says no. Caution is recommended, at least, right? Especially when you think that there is danger. So yeah, do I distance myself from them based on the possibility that they may? Yeah, to be cautious, you're allowed, inshallah. Number 10, as long as, because this could be the last one, unless we have other questions, inshallah. So besides reading the words of Allah to realize the reality of things, is there other ways to remedy shuh? Does it mean that if we do not connect with the Quran, we can't grasp its true meaning? No, it's not only the Quran, but the Quran is one of the main ways to treat all illnesses of the heart, including shuh, to discover it and to treat it. So Allah Azza wa Jalla, no other than Allah Azza wa Jalla has told you that Quran is shifa'un lima fi sudur, is a cure for what is in the hearts, right? Allah said it. So if Allah says that, the Quran is the cure. So how is it a cure? Because I'm not going to go in detail, but it tells you what the disease is. So you know it. There is something called shuh. So it tells you it's shuh. And without you knowing it, just by Allah Azza wa Jalla talking about the hereafter, heaven, hell, about the significance of this life, about who He is, about His forgiveness, about His bounties, all of these things treat shuh. So you need the Quran. You need the Quran. So just consider the Quran as the foundation. But you also have the Sunnah. The Sunnah does talk about shuh. And you also have, even, subhanAllah, wisdom that you glean from your own experience, or someone teaches you based on their own experience. You hear a lot, for instance, don't be deceived by this world. I thought that I'm going to live forever in it, but it's very deceptive. This is wisdom based on experience, whether it's personal or gleaned from somebody else. So that's another way. Wisdom even inherited from, centuries ago, or from even gleaned from other nations. It all speaks to the same thing, to the same truth, that greed in this world leads to nothing. It leads to destruction. So the Quran, the Sunnah, common wisdom, and experience, all of that will teach you aspects of what shuh is and how to treat it. But the basic remedy, the basic realization, the basic diagnosis comes from the Quran and the Sunnah. So you need them. So now this is what the sister is asking. So if I'm disconnected, does that mean that I won't grasp its true meaning? You may have memorized the definition of shuh somehow. If you're reading what a philosopher so and so had said, and maybe they defined it right, maybe. So you've memorized it. Shuh is, greed is, da 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 da. And greed is bad because of da 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 da. But then you'll just know theory. That's it. So if you're disconnected from the Quran, you'll just understand shuh. If you understand it, you'll just understand shuh up here. It has no impact on your heart here. You'll understand it's bad. Like if I'm a doctor who smokes, I understand smoking is bad. I know. but it doesn't have an impact on my behavior. So I know that shuh is bad, greed is bad, but it doesn't impact my behavior. So you need the Quran to make that real for you, to move you towards what you already know. Okay. Okay, let me see here. I'm trying to understand. Not good enough. How do we boost our esteem regardless of others' achievements? Okay, so when you look at, if we envy other achievements as it makes us feel we're not good, smart enough, how do we boost our esteem regardless of what others achieve? Inshallah. Okay. Inshallah. So if you're disconnected from the Quran, it's definitely the case that you will be disconnected from the cure and from understanding what the disease is and how to pursue that cure, right? So you need the Quran for it, and that's why it's important to read it all the time and understand it and apply it, okay? And even if you're not in a stage at this moment for you to apply, at least, right, read it. Like, these are the things that we want in the Quran: read, understand, and apply. If I cannot apply, at least I'll read and understand. If I cannot, don't want to even, I don't have time to understand it, at least I'll read. Because you want one kind of connection. You don't want to lose all of them. So read, understand, apply. I'm not applying, at least read and understand. I don't have time to read the translation, to stop and thinking about it. I'm busy, I'm this and that. Or I'm not in the mood to understand at this moment. Read. Because if you read, you have a connection. Then the next step can come, understanding later. Allah will put it in your heart to understand. And if you read and you understand and you want to apply yet, keep reading and understanding, because Allah will put in your heart at some moment that you need to apply. But stay connected. Okay. So last question, unless more come. So their sister asking here is that if we envy, right, other achievements, let's say, if we envy or envious of other achievement as it makes us feel that we're not good or smart enough, how do we boost our self-esteem regardless of other people's achievements? This is, if I want to say 99% of us feel like that, I don't think I'll be exaggerating, and maybe 99.9%. If I look at somebody else, they've done something incredible compared to me, how do I not feel envious? Because I'm comparing myself to them and I'm feeling worthless. Okay, I feel like I'm nothing because of what they have done. First of all, as much as you can, stop that comparison. Stop that comparison. And that comparison is a disease or produces disease. So stop the comparison. Okay? So, for instance, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَلَا تَتَمَنَّوْا مَا فَضَّلَ اللَّهُ بِهِ بَعْضَكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Do not wish for what Allah has favored some of you over others. Don't wish. Allah says it in the Quran. Do not wish for what Allah has favored some of you over others. Meaning, don't look at others. How do you stop wishing? One of the ways that you stop wishing is stop looking and stop comparing. You know how when you look at haram, what do? There's something haram. In theory, what we're supposed to do, ideally. You look at haram, what do? Look away, right? Haram, okay, look away. So if there is something, if somebody just bought a new car, and I know that, right, I love cars, or my car is not working, whatever, and if I look and I keep looking, it's going to cause envy in my heart, which is not right. I don't want to have that. So what am I supposed to do? Look the other way, just like it's haram. Because you need that distance. You need that distance from things that inflame that comparison that the sister is talking about. So you don't want to look at what people have, right? And lower your eyes, avert your gaze, so that you don't see what people have and it does not distract you. And there are evidence from the seerah, the history of the pious predecessors, where they wouldn't pass by places that there is sin in them, or they wouldn't mingle with the rich, because mingling with the rich, and you could be a rich person, there's nothing wrong with it, but for those who know that I have this particular problem, they don't mingle with people, they're not around people that is going to exasperate the problem. So first of all, to stop that comparison, you need to stop looking at other people. Stop. That's one. The second thing, inshallah, is to know that if Allah Azza wa Jal had given them something, He did not give them other things. It doesn't matter who they are. And if Allah Azza wa Jal did not give you something, He gave you other things. It does not matter who you are. If I compare you to any other person, you want to be thinking about, and you're looking only at what they have and feeling bad because of it, I could point out something that you have that they don't, then may, if they look at it, make them feel worthless and, without achievement. It's a possibility. It just may be that the thing is, they've invested in what Allah had given them, and we're yet to invest in what Allah had given us. That's it. Or maybe that what Allah had given them is visible, and what Allah had given you is less visible, but it's there. Like, for instance, if Allah Azza wa Jalla had given somebody, you look at somebody and they're academically excellent, economically they're well-to-do, family-wise they're set. You look at yourself, X on all of these things. But then you find out that Allah Azza wa Jalla had given you, for instance, the ability to read the Quran. They don't have it. Then that thing that you have is more valuable than those three things. You just don't thank Allah for it because you don't consider it a ni'mah. Like, we don't consider religion a ni'mah. We just consider all the dunya as ni'mah, but they don't consider religion a ni'mah. Or if Allah had given you that opportunity to pray at night. That's why I say, if somebody's competing with you in this world, compete with them in the hereafter. If you want to be better, like you really want to be better than anybody else, and they're able to achieve in worldly matters what you cannot, achieve in the hereafter what they cannot. Then when you meet Allah Azza wa Jalla, you'll be better than them, and that's it. That's the end of the race. That's the end of the race. You've won. And why have you won? Because you've put your energy in things that Allah loves. So when you're looking at someone's ni'mah, consider that this ni'mah is one thing that Allah had given them, but they don't have other things. And you have what they don't have. And especially if you have that religious ni'mah, then you're really better than them. Something else to keep in mind, just so that you would kill that comparison. Not every ni'mah that you think a person has is a ni'mah. You think that in general, marriage is a ni'mah, children are a ni'mah, wealth is a ni'mah, but is every marriage a ni'mah? Is every child a ni'mah? Is every penny a ni'mah? So you're looking at things that you do not know whether it's ni'mah or not, and you say, I don't have it. But maybe they're not being blessed. Maybe they're being punished. How do you know? Maybe it is a ni'mah now. Later on, they're going to lose it. Maybe, not that we wish, not that. But I'm telling you that maybe later on they will use it. Maybe they'll find out that there's something wrong with it. Maybe it's a cause for their sorrow. Maybe if Allah were to give you the same thing, both of you would be miserable. So you're looking at what? What is this comparison? You shouldn't compare because Allah had made you unique. This is, again, without exaggeration, inshallah. You are unique. In your life experience, in who you are, in your soul, there is no one in existence like you. Is there? Who is born to your parents at this particular place, at this particular time, who has this particular likes and dislikes, who is afraid of these things, but likes to have these. Who is like you? No one. You're exactly unique. So how can you, a unique person, compare yourself to somebody else who is different, who's also unique? You have a different path in life. Try to keep reminding yourself, I'm different. My path is not their path. If you wanted to copy them, you'd be them. So Allah would make you twins. But even twins have different lives. So you're not. You're not them. So anybody's achievement is theirs. And if you just focus on what they have, what they've done, what they have and what they've done, you'll miss what Allah had given you. And those people, maybe that's what they did. Maybe they didn't focus on what other people have or don't have. It's just simply invested in what Allah had given them. Invest in what Allah had given you and it will be blessed. So forget I put those like blinders on, like horses sometimes, so that they would maintain focus. They'll put blinders on them like that. So put those blinders on, focus on you, focus on what Allah had given you. And somebody achieved, I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter. If it's going to motivate you, great. But otherwise, I don't care. Let it go. And focus on what you have to do today. Don't let anything else distract you. And your worth with Allah Azza wa Jal is not your grade for an exam, is not your salary, is not how many kids you have, is not where you live, is not if you were promoted or not. Your worth with Allah Azza wa Jal is your iman. If you have iman, you're okay with Him. Everything else will go away. You know that, right? That's also one reason to stop comparison. What are you comparing? What are you comparing? I'm comparing what is going to perish to what is going to perish. Oh, he has money and this, he's going to lose all of that. She's going to lose all of this. Oh, she has a big house. Well, how long is she going to keep it? She's going to lose it. Oh, she has a lot of children. Either she will die or they will die. Oh, she travels. There's going to come a day, either she's dead or she can't move from where she is sitting. Yeah. So what are you, the difficulties that we had in the beginning, but I hope inshallah that we're able to get most of you inshallah online so that you'll be able to hear what we've said. It's about 57 minutes inshallah. So I think inshallah we'll finish soon bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. We'll try inshallah more with trying to perfect inshallah this live broadcast, so inshallah would be smooth inshallah. Tomorrow inshallah, just to remind you, we have the Islamic etiquettes bi'idhnillah azza wa jal at 7 o'clock inshallah tomorrow. So inshallah we'll see you tomorrow. Yes, inshallah. So the sister's asking, is there a lecture tomorrow? Inshallah, yes. So we continue with lecture tomorrow. We'll continue with as-salam, and then we'll move on inshallah to other manners inshallah. So just a couple of points related to as-salam, saying assalamu alaikum, and then we'll move on inshallah to the next etiquette. So jazakumullahu khairah for listening, and ask Allah Azza wa Jalla Rabbal Alameen to reward you all for your patience and bearing with us. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla guide us to the best that He loves, and to keep us away from the worst that He hates subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Him to purify our hearts and purify our intention, to make us of those who ask Him all the time and turn to Him all the time. Ya Allah, we ask You to make us of those who ask You and turn to You with dua. And we ask You, Ya Rabbal Alameen, to accept our dua and to give us patience with the trials of this life and make it our focus, our primary focus the hereafter. We ask You to make us of the people of Jannah, and include in that, Ya Rabbal Alameen, our spouses and our children, our parents, our friends, our families, and everyone that we love. And bring us all, inshaAllah, next to Your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask You, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, to forgive us all of our sins. We know that we have so many of them. We know that we neglect many of Your commands, Ya Rabbal Alameen, but we know that You're oft forgiving and You love to forgive. So we ask You that You forgive us, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, that if we have any sin, Ya Rabbal Alameen, take it away from us. Take away the evil consequences of our sin and bring us closer to You. Ya Allah, we ask You to protect us from all the fitan. We ask You, Ya Rabbal Alameen, to guide us to a good deed before our death, so that when we die and before we die doing something that You love, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. And jazakumullahu khairah for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.